Government is collaborating with the United Nations Capital Development Fund to explore best ways of accelerating moves to ensure a cashless society. This was made known at the launch of the executive document on the state of digital payments in Ghana. The Deputy Finance Minister Charles Edubwan called on captains of industries to embrace this new policy of the cashless system. Here's more in this report.
All business transactions in the country are expected to be digitized within the coming months. That's according to the Deputy Finance Minister Charles Edubwan, who has revealed plans by the Finance Ministry to liaise with development partners like the United Nations Capital Development Fund to fast-track government resolve to ensuring a cashless economy.
The development of a digital financial services system in Ghana has been premised on the following key objectives: to prevent and or contain risk in payment, clearing and settlement systems, to establish a robust oversight and regulatory regime for the payment and settlement systems, to bring efficiency to fiscal operations of the Ghana government, to deepen financial intermediation, to discourage the use of cash for transactions whilst encouraging the use of paper-based instruments for payments as part of the short-term development plan, to promote financial inclusion without risking the safety and soundness of the banking system, and to develop an integrated electronic payment infrastructure that will enhance interoperability of payments and securities infrastructure. Mr. Chairman, in 2014, the government of Ghana joined the Better Than Cash Alliance and committed itself to a program of transiting from cash to digital payments. For Ghana, the transition to electronic payments will bolster the effectiveness of fiscal operations through efficient receipts and payments and security of government transactions.
Meanwhile, a survey by the Better Than Cash Alliance, a global partnership of governments that accelerates the transition from cash to digital payment, has commended government for its resolve to ensure a cashless economy. Dr. Ruth Godwin-Groen is the managing director of Better Than Cash Alliance.
Change isn't easy, as we all know. It takes commitment because it's not going to happen overnight, as many of our members know. And so my message to you is to continue the great work that you've begun, as we've seen from this baseline study. You've got real momentum going at the government level, but also through these terrific group of people here who are all committed to building an inclusive digital financial ecosystem. So congratulations and keep up the great work. We're going to be working together today to see what actions need to be taken to continue that work. There will be continued rapid innovation in digital payments. It's not slowing down. We at the Better Than Cash Alliance have members globally, and we document the changes that are happening, as many of the case studies that you've read, and for example, the research that has been done today. Incredible changes that are not slowing down, because digital payments have the potential to create an inclusive economy.
Survey is urging governments to prioritize 4 key areas of business transactions in the country, which includes the payment of fees and fines to government, utility, retail sector, among others.
And that was Charles Aite's report. Now, the total value of goods and services produced in the country ending June this year witnessed its biggest growth in a long while. Figures released today by the Ghana Statistical Service puts the growth rate at 9%. Acting Government Statistician Bawade has been explaining key drivers that led to the revised figures.
Yeah, first let me explain. We've mentioned 2 growth rates this morning. We mentioned the revised annual growth rate for 2016, which we gave as 3.7%. And then we also mentioned the second quarter 2017 GDP annual growth rate, which we put at 9.0%. Now for the second quarter 2017 annual growth rate, when it compares with last year's second quarter GDP growth rate, which was put at about 1.1%, this appears to be a big shift. Now the main causes or the main drivers, if we didn't mind, were are attributed to the growth rates for the following subsectors. We have mining and quarrying, recording a growth rate of 75%. And out of this mining and quarrying growth rate, oil and gas grew by 188% for the second quarter of 2017. Then we also had other sectors or groups contributing. We had health and social work recording a growth rate of 18.3%. We have information and communication, 15.8%. Water and sewerage, 13.3%. Education, 9.6%. And crops, 8.3%, of which cocoa contributed or grew by 15.6%.
So we can largely attribute this development to the growth that we've seen in the oil and gas sector.
Largely, it was due to the growth that occurred in the oil and gas sector for the second quarter of 2017.
All right, so let's get some more perspective on these latest figures we are receiving and what the future looks like. We've been speaking with the Executive Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Felix Asante.
I think it's due to a lot of issues. I mean, we've been able to stabilize electricity issues, so we expect the industry and services sector to improve upon their activity. And I think that is one of the main cause of, the economy is gone back to normalcy because of this electricity crisis. I think that is one main. And then we also have the oil, the 10 coming on. If you notice, last year there was oil production, the Jubilee went down or there was a break. But I think this time it's picked up. And my expectation is that with 10 coming on, we are going to expect an improvement in GDP.
So we can expect this to run throughout the year and into the next financial year?
Oh yes, as long as there is no interference with oil production, I think we'll be seeing a growth in the GDP, mainly coming from oil and gas. And also with the good news that the issues we sent, the issue we had with Côte d'Ivoire has been resolved. I think it gives us a signal that our expectation will be met in terms of revenue coming from the oil and gas sector.
So probably you think we are getting closer to economic stability?
Economic stability is a process. We cannot just use only this point to just conclude. But I think we are working on hoping that we always put everything being equal. We'll keep on having good supply of electricity, and then the private sector will lead in the development. Then we'll expect an improvement in the GDP.
But the other issue has to do with the rising public debt. Is it something that should be of concern? And I've been saying this always. It depends on what you use that money for. If you are using the money in the productive sector, then it shouldn't be too much of a concern, because the idea is it will pay back itself. But if the rise is because we are just spending the money on salaries, then it's a question mark. But I think it's going into productive sector, and it will take some time, a lag, for us to see the output. So if it's rising, we have to be questioning ourselves, what is it being used for? If it's going to the productive sector, then so be it. But if it's just going to supplement salaries and other, then we have a long way to go. But from what you said, does it look like it's going into productive sector?
We have not even started using those monies that we've gone in. It's now going to be used. So let's wait and see the output. But you see, we are making reference to the debt to GDP. Okay. And that is why we are saying it's rising. But if we correct and come out with our GDP figures, because I see a lot of expansion in the economy, then in that case, the ratio also goes down. So it all depends on the dynamics in the economy.
Prof, I'm looking at the data and it appears that the industry is performing much better. Does this come as a surprise?
No, it's because of the oil and gas. Oil and gas falls in the industrial sector, and mining and quarrying, that's where we have the gold
and then we have the oil sector also there. So it's not a surprise.
And that was Professor Felix Asante, Executive Director of ESA, speaking there to JoyNews' Joseph Akablay. In other news tonight, Minister of Trade and Industry Alan Tremantin has charged the newly inaugurated board of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, to work towards ensuring that Ghanaian exporters maximize their benefits from opportunities provided in the African Free Continental Trade Scheme. He said the economy will be export-driven in order to create jobs for the youth. Mr. Tremantin was speaking at the inauguration of the authority in Accra.
President Akufo-Addo has declared one of the major sources of transforming the country's economy in the next 4 years will be through export-oriented trade. To this end, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, has been tasked to take up initiatives that will increase Ghana's exports. Speaking after inaugurating the new Board of Governors for the GEPA, Minister of Trade and Industry Alan Tremantin urged the new board to take advantage of the Africa Free Continental Trade Area initiative to enhance export promotion in the country.
By the end of this year, December 2017, there is going to be a continental free trade area established for the whole of Africa. And this is a major development for trade in Africa. It means by the end of this year, those countries that are serious and can attract investments, both local and foreign, to develop their productive capacity to export, can export anywhere to Africa, duty-free, quota-free. So, yes, ECOWAS has been a significant part of our development agenda, but with the coming to force of the Continental Free Trade Area, we are thinking beyond ECOWAS. We are thinking beyond ECOWAS. So this is really the time for us to start mobilizing our private sector to think about exports. Because when the gates are open, beginning of 2018, those countries that have positioned themselves to take advantage of this common market for Africa are the ones who are going to reap the benefits.
Chairman of the governing board of GEPA, Sandy Osei Ajiman, in an interview disclosed that the board will be embarking on a series of capacity-building programs for exporters of non-traditional products.
We have to take a critical look where we are. You know, all things, we have to do a situation analysis. Where are we with this particular product? What do we need? What intervention is needed? How best can we help the grower or the exporter to build capacity so that they have the quantities required to do, if it's starch, they have it. So it's just the way that we're going to take a critical look at the items that we're going to put energies on and work backwards from the production side to the all the way to the marketing side. And that involves a lot of things: financing, packaging, certification. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. You know that we have research institutes here that have done a lot of work. We should tax them to see what else can we get out of some of these items other than the way that we used to.
The 10-member board include the AGI Chief Executive Officer Seth Chuma Kwabwa, the GIPC boss Yofi Grant, and Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Gipti Klenan.
Well, let's turn to developments at the Electricity Company of Ghana, and government has rejected demands by ECG workers for a severance package as a new company takes over management of the utility firm. Government says any such payment would be made to only workers who voluntarily decide to cut ties with the company after the takeover. The workers have been making fresh demands this week, even before the new company assumes management of the firm. But Energy Minister Boakye Jaku noted today the door has now been opened for negotiations with ECG workers who want to be re-enrolled by the new owners of ECG.
If you decide to leave ECG, then you will be paid your severance. But you should not have the expectation or guarantee that the new company will take you on. You have made a decision to sever your relations with ECG, and it should not put you in the faithful expectation that going forward you have a job with. So it is open. All the ECG workers who want to leave and not join the new company are at liberty to do so, and their severance so arranged. But it's not going to be a collective bargaining situation where all ECG workers, all 6,500 of them, are paid a severance and then transferred to NewCo. You are at liberty to transfer yourself to NewCo and carry with you all your benefits from ECG and continue accruing new benefits. Equally at liberty to say that I want to wash my hands off electricity company and go my merry way.
All right, moving on now. And Deputy Minister for Energy, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, says taxes in the petroleum price build-up will not be removed as demanded by some organizations and individuals.
Constantly seeing a downward trend. So we anticipate that there will be some amount of easement in the price of petroleum products. Now, don't forget that normally, for the past so many years, at this time of the year, the prices will normally come down after the summer driving season. The summer driving season in the Western countries where there's no winter, people get out of their houses, they go on vacation, they crisscross their countries, and then the demand on products increases, and that has a way of impacting the prices. And normally by this time of the year, you go back to last year, and I have a graph here, you see that every year the price will normally come down. It is different this time because of the unfortunate natural disaster that we had in the United States especially, which had to see some diversion of products from Europe meant for South, West and Central African countries to the Americas. 3.5 million barrels of refining capacity was knocked out of the United States system. Now, they normally will supply the likes of Mexico, East Coast, and then other places. That immediately will mean that demand has increased beyond the normal times that we have. Now, that has changed because some of the refineries are coming upstream, and eventually we will come to normalcy, and I believe your fears will not be.
All right, so that was actually the Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Hassan Tampoli, speaking at that Energy Ministry press conference. We want to turn to aviation now, and the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has put on hold plans to implement new proposals that will require airlines to pay compensation to passengers when denied boarding a flight. The draft proposal would have seen compensations of up to $600 paid by domestic, regional and international airlines to passengers when denied boarding due to overbooking or some flight inconsistencies. However, after a stakeholder consultation on the proposed directive, the time for implementation has been moved to an unknown date.
The stakeholder engagement was to ensure full participation of industry players before going ahead to conclude a proposal for the payment of compensations as a result of flight cancellations or overbooking. However, airline operators had concerns with the stipulated amounts to be paid. The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has therefore rescheduled the implementing date from October to an unspecified time.
There are compensations for cancellation of flights, for denied boarding, for major delays in flight takeoff and so on. And it's not uniform. We have different provisions for domestic operations and for international operations. We've made some proposals, and during our interaction with the public, other alternatives came up, and we are reviewing all this, and finally we'll come up with actual figures, and whether it will be in percentage or in dollar amount and so on. It's difficult to mention specific figures now.
The draft proposal, if implemented, would have seen compensations of $100, $300 and $600 paid by domestic, regional and international flights respectively to passengers when denied boarding for the various categorized reasons. However, speaking to Joy Business, some airline operators say the charges will not augur well for business.
If a situation like you've cancelled the flight due to a technical fault that you could not reasonably foresee, and you have about 200 passengers on your hand, and you've got to pay each passenger that amount of money, that would be very overburdening for the carriers who would also incur some costs that would not be openly or overtly seen by the customers, also arising from that same cancellation. So we look for an opportunity to engage further and to renegotiate it downwards.
For passengers, though, the initiative was long overdue. Apiakusi Adumako is the coordinator for CATS Ghana, a consumer rights organization.
The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has done well for implementing these international best practices in Ghana. For many years, when a passenger is denied boarding or a flight is cancelled, there is no remedial action for the passenger. With these directives coming to effect, consumers will be satisfied, and it's also going to raise the bar of performance higher on the airlines to be able to work hard, as they will be asked to cough money to pay the consumers for not meeting the set standard.
Finalization of the draft directive has become imperative following the ratification of the Montreal Convention in 2015 by Parliament.
You're watching Business Live. Quick break. We'll be back with the Joy Business Van. Welcome back. Now, traveling around the city, the Joy Business Van has encountered very promising Ghanaian businesses whose potential can be further developed should they be supported. Today's edition of the Joy Business Van comes to you from the just ended Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair, where we engage some entrepreneurs to learn about how they're keeping up with the market. Harrison Ajiman, Io Date, Deborah Ednam. 3 entrepreneurs who caught our attention at the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair. Harrison is owner of Volta Wineries and produces wine from cocoa, cashew and coffee. He learned how to make wine while he was studying in Scotland 5 years ago.
Over there, I learned that we were making wine from strawberry, blackcurrants and all the fruits they have, not the grape. So I noticed that it is possible to make wine from fruits other than grape. And I first tried the banana wine, then an idea occurred to me that if you can make wine from those fruits, then you can also make wine from cocoa.
Io Date tells me he was discovered by his first grade teacher. He loved to paint and decided to make that his profession.
As you can see, the works I have here are things we can relate to in our community. That's, you can see the bone shaker, the old Bedford. Okay. And most of the institutions you see on them are the stories of the drivers that they want to express into. They just put it in a phrase. As you can see, why worry? No pain, no gain, time will tell.
Deborah, well, she transformed a hobby to what has become Weya Africa, a promising fashion accessories brand.
Those days I used bamboo and I realized people love them, especially my mom. She loved them, and people, although I don't sell them, by the way people looked at them, there was one man who advised me, why don't I go into this beading, because I'm really good. Well, and I realized, in fact, I had the talent, so let me do something. I started it and everything went well. I didn't even learn it anyway, it's natural.
So, 3 Ghanaian entrepreneurs passionate about what they do and poised to put Ghana on the international map. But wait a minute, even locally, it's quite a struggle. They have to grapple with many issues: funding, foreign competition, and production challenges.
We don't have packaging materials locally, so you have to import packaging materials from abroad. And when you are a small business operating, it means that your unit cost of the packaging will be high, and that puts up your cost.
The most depressing is what appears to be the huge appetite of locals for everything or most things foreign. That, of course, started the Made in Ghana campaign, an initiative by government, past and successive, to get Ghanaians to choose Ghana-made products first. We are not where we want to be, but it appears the campaign may be working.
It used to be very challenging, but in the last 3 years, it started picking up because some of our institutions, like the banks and other corporate institutions, started patronizing us. So, for instance, you can go to Stanbic Heights, you can see my work there. I was fortunate to have Frankie's Hotel. You can go there, you can see my paintings in their corridor, their hotel rooms and all that. So gradually it is picking up.
The entrepreneurs recognize they've got a lot of work to do on their side, especially with producing quality products and branding them to match up with foreign ones. That is where Harrison is investing his money.
We believe we should make a perfect product, and we've been trying and playing with this for some time. Currently, we believe our products are perfect, but initially we were having some challenges, and we have to be doing a lot of research. So we are not able to turn in profit or acquire funding to put into the business.
The future looks brighter, speaking to these entrepreneurs, but they say aside from putting in place conducive measures for them to operate, the campaign for patronage of made in Ghana products should be intensified. It shouldn't be just words, but backed with action.
If I'm working in a government institution, I go to office and I see paintings and it's nice. I would love to have it in my home. So when people their work is getting closer to the people will have love for it, definitely.
The ambition to match up with foreign counterparts could one day become a reality. At least Deborah believes that.
I have people that buy my things and sell uptown. I have a lot of people that do that.
Okay.
Yeah. People buy the things, they put their brand on it. You know, I take my money, they put their brand on it, and you think it's there. But people that know me see that and say, oh, no, this is from Royal Africa.
The foreigners who have seen her products here in Ghana really like them. And one day, well, someday soon, she is certain she would be exporting most of her fashion accessories. And that's our program tonight. You can have a read of the latest happenings in the transport sector. Of course, that protest staged by workers at the Metro Mass Transit all over the country. You get updated on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daroko. We'll see you same time tomorrow.